Welcome to the Cafe Culture podcast, a season of discussions on culture, politics, philosophy and science.
At a talk recorded on the 3rd of March 2014, Mark Trennell discussed whether we are fit for life.
Well, good evening and thank you very much for the invitation to come and speak with you. I'm going to start with a couple of disclaimers. I've just flown in from Singapore, so it's currently 3 o'clock in the morning, which means that I'm half asleep, so if I speak a little bit slowly at some point, please let me know. If I speak too quickly, if you don't understand anything, please put your hand up or shout. Try not to throw things because it is 3 o'clock in the morning where I'm from and they'll probably hit me. I'm going to be talking tonight about why chairs cause heart attacks and do we really think about what we do. This is something that you're all experts in, so all I'm going to try and do is highlight some things that we talk about on a daily basis. I'm hopefully going to leave you thinking about why you should think a little bit more about what you do on a daily basis. I'm looking forward to you challenging me with why I might have it wrong and why I should probably go away and do a little bit more research. I'm going to speak for about 20 minutes. I'm going to talk about some of the research that we do, but some of the data which is out there. So hopefully you find it informative. If you are tweeting, feel free to bombard me. I'm at Mike Trennell. If you're not tweeting, I look forward to your thoughts anyway. So why was I invited to come and speak? Well, I think it was because we've done a lot of work looking at ageing, and there are so many bad points out there and bad press about ageing and the doom and gloom of chronic disease. We're all going to have dementia, diabetes, heart disease, cancer. And I'm a natural optimist, and there's kind of missing some of the important things outside there. So the statistics are really quite profound. If we have a look at ageing, we're living longer than we ever have. It's a great time to be alive. If you do have a chronic condition like diabetes or heart disease, we're better at managing it than we ever have, which is in itself a great thing. With it is carrying an enormous amount of burden. Because we're living longer, we're spending more time with these chronic diseases and we're learning more about the importance of managing life and managing lifestyle throughout as a result. And as we're living longer and we're really good at managing these chronic diseases, it's costing us as taxpayers an enormous amount of money. In fact, if we look at something like type 2 diabetes, it represents 10% of the total NHS budget. So last year we spent nearly £13 billion on managing type 2 diabetes, and it's remarkably common. The numbers themselves around money don't really matter, because if you have diabetes and you have the complications of diabetes, it becomes very real. £13 billion is very abstract. If you have diabetes, the complications of it become very real very, very quickly. So my interest came, and I've run phase 1 drug studies looking at the next Ujima flip that makes things go up, makes things go down. And I'm really interested in lifestyle and the role that lifestyle can have in preventing and managing chronic disease and promoting lifelong health and well-being. And the reason for that is twofold. I started off doing work with people with rare neuromuscular diseases, so a condition called mitochondrial disease. So I think Doug Turnbull has spoken about this with you before. And so we started having a look at how you could use lifestyle as a way to either replace therapy or to have it instead of it if there are not therapies already available. And from that I became fascinated with chairs, doing nothing and doing stuff. And I'll start off with some facts about chairs and why I'm so interested in them.
Sorry, someone's trying to get in through the door there.
It's the speaker. So we were thinking about inactivity, and the reason for this is because our lifestyles have changed dramatically over the last 30 or 40 years. So if you think about your parents and your parents' parents, the jobs that they had were very different to the ones we have now. The biggest killer is probably television and computers in terms of our behaviours, because we end up sitting down on chairs all day long. And very early on, there was some great research done. So Jerry Morris did what is the first study that began to tease out why how much you move on an everyday basis was really important for your life. So Jerry compared London bus conductors with bus drivers. So those of you old enough to remember bus conductors and bus drivers, it's great. But for those of you who were a little bit younger, so bus drivers drive a bus, no more explanation. But the bus conductors spent their life going up and down the bus and up the stairs and then telling people off for putting their feet on chairs and taking in all the money. And so these people had very different activity patterns throughout the day. And what Jerry noticed is if you track the health of all these people, the bus drivers were more than twice as likely to die of a heart attack than the bus conductors. So this became quite interesting, and this wasn't exercise. This was just everyday activity. So obviously there's a confounding variable or something that could relate to that in the middle, in that the bus drivers have got a stressful job. Driving a bus around London isn't something that would be great. So the most recent, if I flip back to 3 months ago, there was an enormous study done by a guy called Tom Yates in Leicester, and he replicated the same findings, or the same type of study, but this time he was able to correct for BMI, so how big people were, correct for stress levels, and what he was able to show was that the same relationships existed. So your activity patterns, or more importantly, how inactive you were, was one of the most profound indicators of chronic disease, in particular heart disease. Now, the reason why inactivity is so important is because it has such a dramatic effect on your body. So if you think about going out for a run, and if you go out for a jog or a walk or jump on a bike, you might do 30 minutes or 1 hour maximum. That means that you have the rest of your waking day when you're doing stuff. So you could potentially have 7 hours in your day where you do nothing, where you sit in a chair, you lie in a bed, and then you try and counteract that with a nice brisk 30-minute walk. Well, unfortunately, the bad news is that your 7 hours of inactivity will do you more damage than you're able to repair through your 30 minutes of activity, whether that be exercise, whether that be going out for a brisk walk. You would be better breaking up your sedentary behaviour, and you would get better health benefits from it. So the reason why inactivity is so powerful is severalfold. So the first one is quite obvious. When you move, you use muscles. And muscles, when you use them, they have more blood that flows through them. The more blood that flows through them, the more the nutrients are able to get to the muscle. So the more you can tuck away the nasty fats, you can tuck away the sugars. If you are less active, the ability of those to get to the muscle is diminished. You also become more insulin sensitive. Insulin is the hormone that pushes sugar into the liver and muscle into your fat tissue. Now, insulin has two roles. One, it's good because it pushes things into muscles, but two, it's actually quite bad because it's one of the most powerful growth factors in the body. So if you become insulin resistant and your insulin levels rise and rise and rise, the insulin starts to trigger things to grow. And it's why insulin resistance is related to things like cancer. It's related to things like dementia, because you have these plaques in your brain and the insulin will be telling them, keep growing, keep growing. And so inactivity is quite an important and quite a powerful modulator, and we're learning more and more about it. Although I gave exercise a little bit of a bad rap, it was more to highlight the importance of chairs. But getting up and moving is in itself immensely powerful. So if you're able to accumulate 30 minutes of exercise in a day, and an exercise is something you do deliberately, your risk of diabetes goes down, your risk of cancer goes down, your risk of dementia goes down, heart disease goes down. If you're older, your ability to be ambulatory, so see your friend who lives around the corner, your ability to walk to the shops is maintained. So exercise and keeping your body moving is absolutely critical for your body to function. And it's critical because your body is designed to move. If you left your car on the drive and you didn't touch it for 2 years, would you expect it to start the first time that you turn the key? Well, your body is very, very similar. And so what it does is it keeps your body fit. And the most recent data that we found is that fitness is really important. In fact, it's more important than how fat you are. So we spent years worrying about how big we are. If you forget everything from today, you don't have to worry about how big you are. You can be massive. But if you're fit and massive, you'll be fine. If you're unfit and massive, you'll have problems. It's a great message because most of us have difficulties in managing our body weight. Now, the reason for that is your fitness is like an engine. So it describes your body's ability to burn fuel, whether that be fat or sugars. And so if you're unfit, then your ability to burn those is quite a bit diminished. And so historically, we've given messages around how big people are because measuring how big people are is a lot easier than measuring how fit people are. But yet the two seem to be away from each other. Now, one of the other things that's quite interesting is if we think about people's body shape and their behaviours, are that we think or we'd assume that every single day we make conscious decisions. So for the 5,840 awake hours that you have per year, you'd like to think that you make decisions every single day and you're completely in control. Well, the data says otherwise. The data says that you cluster your behaviour around your friends. So some great data from the Framingham study. So Framingham is a little town in the US that's been following people for decades. So if you've ever been to the doctor and told you've got an excess heart disease risk, it's because of that one little town in the middle of the United States. Now what they've been able to show is that if you take somebody who's overweight, their friends tend to be overweight. And if you take someone who's of normal weight, their friends are of normal weight. So you cluster these types of, if we use obesity as a marker of lifestyle, that you cluster these things together. Now, if an obese person changes connections and then becomes connected with thin people, they lose weight. Now, I'm not for a second suggesting that if you want to lose weight, change your friends. Though my friends keep telling me that they'd like to get rid of me, but that's for other reasons. But it's really interesting because what it shows is that there are many types of behaviour that we do on an everyday basis. So when you got up this morning, you brushed your teeth, you probably didn't think about it. You've eaten breakfast cereal, you probably haven't thought about that. If I was a marketeer, I could probably look at your postcode, look at your age and your income, and I could probably predict the types of things that you would buy in the store. When you get out, you walk to your car. The type of car you've chosen is determined by you or by what you're saying about yourself. When you walk into a shopping centre, do you take the escalator or do you take the stairs? Well, everyone else is taking the escalator. I look like an idiot if I get the stairs. So these are social norms. If you're out with your friends, and your friends are all getting... So I'm out with my friends. They're a bad group of people, but in a nice way. So I'm out with my friends, out with the boys. We've all had a few beers and we're having dinner. Now, do I take the slimline gin and tonic and do I ask for a salad? Or do I have another beer and have a steak? Now, can you imagine what they would turn around and say to me? These are examples of clusters. My friends know me well enough that I'll choose whatever the heck I like anyway. But your behaviours are really clustered. And if we really want to challenge health behaviours, we need to look at social norms. So if we're thinking about inactivity in the workplace, for those of you that work, for those of you that don't, think about your inactivity at home. What would happen if I got a desk where I could stand up and work all day? Well, it would be a challenge to the norm inside of my working space. If someone came in to have a meeting with me, I'd say, well, let's go for a walk. We can talk over the half hour where I can accumulate 100 steps of walking, How do you fancy that? We're going to do what? This is a way to challenge the way that you think about it. But we have so many behaviours that are tightly ingrained in what we do. So my challenge to you, and I think I'm just about up on my 20 minutes, are threefold. One, it's a great time to be alive because we're living longer than we ever have. Doesn't necessarily mean the quality of life in those later years is superb. But the potential for your lifestyle to improve your quality of life through that whole span is tremendous. The second point is that when we think about active lifestyles, we think about a gym-clad lycra bunny going to the gym. The science is telling us otherwise, that one of the most dangerous things for us all are the chairs. Because we spend far more time on a chair than we will do on a bike in a gym. And the third challenge is, do we really think about our activity patterns through the day? Or do we just follow what everyone else does? I'll leave you with a really good example of that. So I've just come back from Singapore, as I've told you. I was speaking at Newcastle University has a medical school out there. There's 11 esteemed professors and me. We all get off the plane. There's a nice long escalator going along. We're all chatting away. 11 esteemed professors get onto the treadmill, and I'm walking alongside, and they think that this is hilarious. I'm going, well, which one of us is getting the most benefit? We've spent 13 hours on a plane not moving, but theirs was a normative behaviour. By the time I've said, well, I'm different to you guys because I think, they walked on the next one. So there are challenges to it. And so my questions to you guys, and some of the things I'd like to talk about, are around ageing. Can it be used as a way to help us live longer, healthier lives? 2, can we start to influence the environment that's around us? And 3, are we really able to, or are we just following the things that our friends do? And over to you guys, and I look forward to your questions.
Cafe Culture North East is supported by Newcastle University, Peels and the British Science Association. We're also supported by Ginger's Cafe in Dance City, who host the events.